Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest. Solo pod here today. Riker's making the move to Chile, so once he gets all set up, we'll be back making the consistent videos. But Kyle Lowry at the USAB mini camp that's been talked about for the past month by reporters, because there's nothing else to talk about this summer about Kawhi Leonard going to maybe be in there. He didn't go, but Kyle Lowry and DeMar at this USA mini basketball camp, and he was asked about the Kawhi Leonard deal, and he was dodging the questions. He was asked if he has ever talked to Kawhi. He said, no, I don't think so. I'm not sure. But you know if you've talked to a person before. So that was a weird answer. He said he didn't speak to Kawhi after the trade. He wasn't going to give anything out there. And when questioned on if people should read into his silence, he didn't address that. He didn't address anything. He just said that USA basketball has been a fun weekend. So a lot of Raptors fans are reading into this Kyle Lowry silence, being short with reporters, saying that he's frustrated with the trade and coming to conclusions. So we wanted to address some of that speculation on the pod. And the first that I heard of this, I saw the quote on Twitter, Reddit. The first time I saw the quote, I was, it sounds pretty bad. It sounds pretty bad. But when you watch Kyle Lowry, it wasn't in an aggressive manner. We'll show the clip up here now.
No, I know I'm reaching stuff.
Have you spoken to him since the deal to Bob?
Probably talk. I think so. I don't know. I don't know.
You don't know if you're spoken to him?
No. I don't know if I spoke to him.
Are you not sure? You can't remember something?
Well, he's not here, so I haven't spoken to him.
On the phone, I mean.
I haven't spoken to him.
You haven't spoken to him? Okay.
So you look at that clip, and we'll look at both sides of the deal, read into both ends. But first, you have to look at it from Kyle Lowry's perspective. The team didn't talk to Kyle about the trade. They didn't, loop him in, keep him in the loop about the deals, the stuff that was on the table. And they trade his best friend. Two of you guys have led the team to higher than it's ever been before. A lot of emotion, a lot of stuff that's been a lot of history with the Toronto Raptors and those two players. And Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan. So obviously it's going to hurt. It's going to hit you hard when they trade your backcourt brother, the best bromance in the NBA. They break that up, and there's going to be a lot of frustration. And obviously as a Raptors fan, we'd love for him to just be able to put that aside and look at Kawhi Leonard, a top 3 NBA player, just coming into the roster and want him to be excited and talking about that consistently. But these guys are human. So as long as until Kyle Lowry bashes the trade and publicly speaks with a statement, whether he's actually angry or not, I'm not going to take any of this too seriously, because you read Raptors Twitter, Reddit, people are saying that they should trade Kyle Lowry. This is absurd that he won't speak on this deal. He's ignoring reporters. I think it's going to take time for him to get over DeMar DeRozan, because DeMar's a great player, best friend, all that sort of stuff, and he's going to have to meet Kawhi, get engaged, and realize that this dude wants to be here, and they, at least for this season, and they can do something big, because Kyle Lowry has always been about winning. And I think my take on Kyle Lowry has been, I haven't voiced it on the pod yet, but Kyle Lowry last summer, when he was up for his contract extension, really wanted to play for the San Antonio Spurs. That was the organization, that was the place that he wanted to go. He wanted to play with Kawhi Leonard and compete for a championship. But the Spurs weren't willing to give him the big bucks. They didn't want to give Kyle Lowry, a massive contract like we gave him, even though it was 3 years. But it didn't work out between the Spurs, but that was his kind of number one spot that he wanted to go to. And the reason that, I think Kyle Lowry will adjust to this trade well is because we literally brought the Spurs to Kyle Lowry. We brought Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green here. We are shifting our organization. We are shifting our roster more to that, style that he wanted to leave the old Toronto Raptors for. So I think there's a lot of emotions riding high right now, and there might be some shade thrown by players. Last summer, Jaylen Brown, rookie for the Celtics. He's a solid guy, not a superstar yet, but he'll be good. And he was very vocal and didn't say anything outright blasphemous against the Boston Celtics, but he said, we don't have an identity anymore, when they traded Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder. So obviously that trade was a very phenomenal deal for the Celtics, everyone adjusted and said Kyrie and all these guys, they accepted it. I think Kyle Lowry will fall in the same boat. Maybe that's a hot take, especially how, Lowry has had a history of being a confrontational guy in the locker room, but that's been toned down significantly when he came to the Raptors, and that has a lot to do with the Dwayne Casey, Masai Ujiri culture that's been instilled in the Toronto Raptors. And we lost Casey, but a lot of reports that came out last year that the locker room was kind of divided between Nick Nurse and Dwayne Casey. Apparently there was a little bit of confrontation there, and Kyle Lowry really, really liked Nick Nurse. So I'm sure that culture will withhold, and we don't know what's going to happen with Nick Nurse, but assuming all things are well and all things go fine, and I trust Masai Ujiri in picking a solid, strong head coach. But it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out, because where Dwayne Casey was really good to the players and empowered them by letting them be more creative and do different things, the new offense that we had last season, structured ball movement, all that sort of stuff, that worked really well. It doesn't give as much freedom to the players. That's the one downfall by it. And I think that's one thing where ISO guys like Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan thrived. So maybe they'll be a bit frustrated and stuff. So there may be potential for disaster there. But I think it's worth the risk going all out with the thing that worked last season offensively. And hopefully everyone buys in. But personally, if you're giving me my opinion right now in July of 2018, I think things are going to work out. Everyone's riding an emotional high. And the fan base, just think about how frustrated we were the first hour that deal was made. The first hour. Right now I'm super high on the Kawhi deal. I can't wait for him to come and be all that. But in that first hour, I was very frustrated that we traded DeMar DeRozan. He repped our city. He led us to Eastern Conference Finals, all that stuff. There's a lot of emotion there, and I was really sad. But now it seems the fan base is getting excited about Kawhi Leonard, realizing that stuff. So it's going to take longer for Kyle Lowry to adjust. He's been with DeMar, been in the locker room every day. They're best friends, and it's going to take more time for him. But he hasn't said anything outright negative. He hasn't came out against the locker room. He hasn't came out against Masai Ujiri. And until he does that, I think things are all going to be good. I think as a fan base, we can't overreact to little things just yet. Now, if this keeps up throughout the regular season, then we'll have to do a different reaction pod, because then emotions are down and Kyle Lowry's rotted. But right now, life is good for Toronto Raptors fans. Can't read into this stuff too much, and I really think that Kyle Lowry, in his heart of hearts, is excited about this deal. He wanted to play for the Spurs. He wanted to be a San Antonio Spur. And now we brought the San Antonio Spurs to him. We brought in a more aggressive coach. Obviously, Nick Nurse is no Greg Popovich just yet. We haven't seen him coach. Maybe it's potential, but that's very big shoes to fill. But Nick Nurse's mantra, from everything that we've heard, is he's going to be more strict on the ISO ball, strict on ISO plays, and that's where the NBA is going. Because honestly, when you look at how the league has changed the past, even 10 years, if that, like the past 5, ever since the Golden State ball movement and stuff, that Dwayne Casey ISO stuff, that was the thing that every team pretty well did. You looked at Kobe's Lakers, even Paul Pierce on the Boston Celtics, what Doc Rivers was running. It was very common because it kept players happy. Everyone got not everyone got the touches. The superstars got the touches. They were happy to be on their teams, and they, even if they were losing, they were putting up big numbers, getting their money, and it was all good. It wasn't until recently this idea of team, joining up and making fluid ball movement things. It's always been a thing in basketball, but it's never what really superstars did. It wasn't the main thing. When games came down to the crunch, superstars wanted to be superstars. So there may be cause for concern there, especially, as I mentioned multiple times, Kyle Lowry has been a kind of an erratic player in past different teams, but Dwayne Casey, in this new kind of ISO system, has kept him happy, most definitely. Kyle Lowry says best years with the Toronto Raptors, but the fact that Lowry wanted to play for Greg Popovich last season, play for this different style, this different, maybe he wasn't ready to play when he was with the Rockets or anything like that. I think we're good. a lot of changes has happened with the Toronto Raptors this offseason, and it's a lot to take in, especially as a guy that's been here through all the ups for the Toronto Raptors and downs. He was here at the very end of the downs. Him and DeMar really let us out of that basement dweller team. But a lot of things are gonna be different this year, and it's gonna take time to adjust. And so we got to give Kyle Lowry time, and until he comes out and is infuriated and speaks on the deal directly, can't read too much into it. I know a lot of people on Twitter and Reddit are frustrated, and that's fair. But this is my take on the Kyle Lowry things. I'm not getting too worried just yet. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Rambled on this enough. Should the Raptors trade Kyle Lowry before he demands a deal? That might be a bit wild, but should we be worried about Kyle Lowry maybe not wanting to play with Kawhi in this new system? Or, is this all good? It's just overreacting to news rumors. Let us know in the comment section below. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram. And as we said, Riker's going to be back, ready to go soon. And Courtside Connect will get going again. So a lot of big things coming. The news is going to start slowing down, but we're just picking up. All right, that's what we want to say to you. You guys are the best for listening. Cheers.